what is this verbal autopsy? Basically, we are trying to get as much detailed and comprehensive information as is possible of what could have happened to the child or adult before the death has taken place. So it's a very complete and comprehensive history. The only thing that we should keep in mind is we should be very sensitive while doing this, because obviously a death has occurred and the family members may not be in the best frame of mind to cooperate with us, and also given the fact that if they are also strongly suspecting that this is because of the vaccine, then they will be all the more not in a very cooperative mood. So the sensitivity is an important aspect of it that we should keep in mind. So as we know, one strong emotion is there. Media also sometimes, especially when we are doing vaccinations in campaign mode, that becomes an issue, and sometimes there is a knee-jerk reaction. Sometimes, in certain situations people might get suspended and things like that, which may not be exactly the fault of the A&M. Here I just heard in the morning that everywhere there is a doctor, but in most of the country vaccinations are done by A&Ms only. They are not handled by doctors. A&Ms are totally doing the vaccinations, A&Ms, staff nurse and others. So sometimes there is a knee-jerk reaction by administrators. So what is that we need to avoid? That if a person has died after vaccination, it is because of the vaccination. That we need to dispel. That notion we need to dispel. So that is why we are doing this exercise. So what is it that we need to do? Who, why, what, when, where? Basically thorough investigation. What happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? Finally to arrive at how did it happen? Because our ultimate objective is causality assessment. So for that we have the forms in which all the details are there for the AEFI deaths. So why we need to do this? To reach a valid diagnosis, mainly for the causality assessment. And sometimes if the child has died suddenly and at home especially, we are not able to get enough details. There are no hospital records. If the child has not sought, the parents have not sought medical care. We see this quite often, especially in the northern belt, in the harsh winter. Right, in a poor family, a child has died, and in the night. So what do we know is the cause? And the child happened to have taken the vaccine on the day before or something like that. So what exactly caused the death? So, and they have not gone to any doctor. They have had no time. There is no hospital record, nothing. So verbal autopsy becomes very important, along with a good quality post-mortem. Madam took a nice lecture in the morning on that, and how to do a post-mortem. So sometimes we don't get post-mortem reports because the family may not have consented for it, or we have not done it. So then we need the verbal autopsy. So who died, the exact details, age, sex, how, when was the child born, where was the vaccination done, who were the treating doctors, and who were present. All the details is a part of the who, right? Who means not only the individual, the entire circumstance around the who. Then what is it that we need to investigate? In most of the places where especially if the death has occurred at home or brought death to health facility, which was also discussed by Madam in the morning. So if it is brought death, we are supposed to do a post-mortem, right? So insufficient medical records, and if diagnosis is not possible, unavailable. So in those cases, it becomes even more important. So sometimes, especially in COVID, we have come across other coincidental or other factors which we need a verbal autopsy to get a proper history, because otherwise there might have been some coincidental or other person is already suffering from some illness because of which the person has died, and if we have not taken a proper history, we have not been able to arrive at or we come to a wrong diagnosis. So when to investigate? As soon as possible. As I mentioned, it's a sensitive issue. We should try to do it as soon as possible. Where? Mostly at home and health facility, community and immunization center, just like your case investigation. Home, family, immunization worker, health worker, treating physician and community members. All these are there in the part of the form. What is the biggest challenge is it's a sensitive issue, and especially if there is media concern. Unfortunately, if cluster death has occurred, if it's a single death, it may not be so much of an issue, but if it is unfortunately a cluster death, then obviously that's much more media and community concern. And other times what we face the challenge is there is no clear-cut sequence or details, no hospitalization, and even if hospitalized, the records are inadequate for us to come to a diagnosis, and there is no valid diagnosis. So, as I mentioned, all the records of all the AFI cases, serious and severe, that happen in the country come to us. How? We need a detailed history, we need to summarize, obtain the records, review the post-mortem report, and collect all the information in the format. And we need to interview the physician, family, vaccinators, community, etc. And as soon as possible, within 70 days. So that's a lot of time actually. We do the causality assessment timeline is 48 hours for CRF, 10 days for CIF, and 100 days for causality assessment. Remember one more, 70 days for verbal autopsy. So 4 timelines. This 48 hours is to reach the state and national level. From the facility to the DIO, it should reach within 24 hours. There are discussions to revise these timelines, but I don't want to give you all the good news too soon. Okay. So hopefully at least for the CIF it may be revised as per the new revised guidelines, but we can't count the chick before they are hatched. Okay. So in infant or a child, so if you look at the form, there are some differences in a verbal autopsy form for adults and children. Obviously, when it is a child, we capture much more of the birth history, development milestones, feeding history, nutritional history. All those details are captured in a child, which those things are not done for an adult, right? So we have to investigate the event. We have to review all medical records, prescription slips, lab reports, discharge summary, etc. A child pre-vaccination condition, we need to know past medical records. It's very important because the child may already be suffering from some genetic or some congenital or some illness which we need to elicit from the family. Birth history, nutritional status, feeding history. One very common thing we find at national level is whenever we have the postmortem also, they find milk in the trachea. Okay, so in the postmortem. But it appears that, choking because of the milk in the trachea. But we have also had a lot of debates at the national level. Like sometimes there can be a post-mortem. The milk has gone into the trachea. Post-mortem, it can be a post-mortem finding. So we have to be very careful. That's why very good history is very important. Because sometimes neither the post-mortem, even if we have a post-mortem report, it's not conclusive. And then the chemical analysis report, it takes time. We don't get it very fast, right? So before that, we sometimes take the cases for causality assessment. Family history, consanguinity, this history we need to take. weather conditions, as I mentioned, in winter months, it's really harsh in the winter. And distance from home to immunization center, socio-cultural practice. Immunization practice, most important to notice whether there is a cluster or no. If it is a cluster, it's a bigger cause of concern. Condition of the other children. These are the details that we need to capture. So this is the form which is there, which has been given to all of you. So it is based on WHO and CDC, it is structured based on that as per the 2015 revised AEFI guidelines. So it has 6 sections which we need to do, which basics for children 0 to 5 years, treatment and health service, family history, any additional information, and what are the impression and case summary. So basic details, as I mentioned, details of the patient, respondent, what is the vaccination history, past history. Here specifically we were discussing with one issue in the morning, the current vaccination we have written here. We are not asking for past vaccination, but as I mentioned, if you all have any doubt that it can be linked to a past vaccination, not a current vaccination, you all can capture that. And past history, nutritional status, and personal history. Collect all available medical records and vaccination card. Then we have details on birth details, feeding history, medical condition, development milestones to know whether that was a normal child, and for on circumstances of the home death. And sometimes we encourage to whatever is the spoken language, try to record as per that. Then treatment and health services, family history, any additional information, and what is the impression and case summary. So if it is a newborn, sorry for it's a very little bit of a small font, but for newborn and child, we have to ask certain specific history of fever, breathing problem, cough, diarrhea, jaundice, fits, unconsciousness, blue discoloration, skin problem, bleeding, etc. So this we need to ask. Okay. And complete birth details, which should be where the child was born, what was the birth weight, any challenges, whether the child needed any resuscitation, feeding practice, sleeping context, pregnancy status at the time of this child, and whether conditions were normal when the mother was pregnant with this child. So was she anemic? What was her BP, blood sugar, and others at the time of pregnancy? We have to ask for coincidental situations like injury, fall, risk of insect or animal bite, and sometimes, unfortunately, we may have suspect infanticide also. Family dynamics, climate, and environment. We get a lot of cases of sudden infant death, and most of this due to lack of proper evidence. We normally tend to put them as unexplained kind of thing, but we should try as much as possible to get the exact details. Many times we just get only this much. Verbal autopsy has been done, but we only get this much details that the child was vaccinated, came home in the evening, was fed at 9 p.m. or 11 p.m., put to sleep, and found dead at 4 a.m. That's all we get. So, but we should try to probe a bit more whether the child was having any other existing illness, whether the child was having fever, did the child have convulsions, and all those questions which we saw in the previous slide. We should ask these questions because this is what we mostly get and ultimately we are forced to put it as, we can't make out what it is, sudden death. So we should ask for chronology of events, feeding, bluish discoloration, was it there or no, birth details, pregnancy details, and all these things we need to ask. Do not mention aspiration as the cause of death unless documented by autopsy. Don't say that child died due to aspiration. We don't know. Okay. SIDS is what we find very often with no obvious symptom or sign or cause. And it's a diagnosis of exclusion. So here all our efforts are trying our best to arrive at a diagnosis. Many a times neither the postmortem report nor the verbal autopsy gives us a clear picture. But that does not mean, our intention should be to try our best to get as much detailed and correct history as possible. If there is any other circumstantial information, we need to explore in detail. It's a critical tool for us, especially in the absence of a post-mortem. And it is a very important tool for causality assessment. So we see it in the context of, along with the other forms, that is a CRF, CIF, and other lab. If the case has been hospitalized, then we get the hospital records and all that. So it is seen along with the other forms.